So should you do performance reviews or not? I think if you are a company that is thinking about growing and being more than just one location, I think it's super important to have some type of mechanism or some type of way to give feedback to your teams and receive feedback. It's a way that both you and the person and the company can grow. In the past, when we've done our performance reviews, we really focused a lot more on competency. Now we have switched the process to focus more on our core values versus competency. You need both, but the shift is really kind of over the years has gained momentum. And the reason we're starting to do it this way is because we want to hire people that fit our culture, that we get along with, and that we think are a great fit, and then train them in the skills that we need. We find that to be easier than to find people that have the skills we need, but try to get them to fit the core values. So it's been a big change that we've made in the past in terms of hiring and how we fire and all that good stuff. And it's been one of the major changes that's helped us as a company kind of stabilize our culture and improve our culture. And so this year, we actually formalized the process. We were grading our team on our two primary core values, our number one being spread the love, and number two, doing it with style. And for us, spread the love is all about empowering our teammates. It's about bringing joy to one another. It's just about being a good vibe. And then our other core value about doing it with style, we call that about bringing our best self to work. When you say do it with style, we have two aspects of ourselves. We have good aspects and bad aspects. We want everyone to bring their good aspects to work, be their best self, and just be a positive person in our environment. We find that super crucial. So when we are evaluating each of our team members, we hold those two things most in mind, and we weight, I would say, probably 90% there and like 10% on the competencies, because we feel like we can train those competencies and improve those, especially if people have the right attitude. Let's talk about our process. So we don't have a super formalized process. We're a small company. This is something that we're working more on. In the past, when my wife and I were in the store more, we were able to observe each team member and we knew how each person worked. Now going forward, we've relied a lot more on our general manager and other team members, other leadership people in leadership positions, just to get feedback on how different team members are performing. In the future, we won't be as involved at the store level reviews, just because we're not going to be the best people to assess those team members. But a big part of our process is, like I said before, grading our teams on the core values and then the competencies. For our leaders, or other people called coaches or managers, we have a special assessment where, in addition to grading them on our core values and their competencies, we grade them on manager skill set. Things that we feel that are important that a leader or manager has, such as self-awareness, ability to deal with stressful environments, ability to manage the vibe of the team. All those kind of things we think are super important for our managers, and so we also include that as a part of the process. When we are thinking about compensation, that's always like a big thing for team members, because we're thinking about, as owners and managers, probably more the feedback portion, but the team members are thinking about how much am I going to get paid, what's the increase. That's a big focus of theirs. We use that. So we usually have that conversation toward the end. But when we think about compensation, we don't have a super formalized process just yet. It is something we are working on. But right now, the considerations we take in mind are, of course, performance, but also we keep in mind inflation. The last couple of years have been crazy for inflation. Rent costs, food costs, everything's gone up, and so we're super mindful of that. We want to definitely pay a living wage and people be able to provide for themselves. And also we look at, what are our peers paying? And when we say peers, we're thinking about fast casual restaurants that are kind of best in class. We're not thinking about Popeyes or McDonald's. We're thinking more in the, what are the Shake Shacks doing? What are the Chick-fil-A's doing? What are the Chipotle's doing? What are the Panda Express doing? They tend to be a lot more competitive with compensation, and so that's one area we also look at. It's like, how are we doing relative to those guys? Because we already know we're better than KFC, we're better than Wendy's, we're better than those chain restaurants that have crappy customer service. So we don't look at them. Because if we looked at them, we would look really, really favorable in terms of compensation. Now, considering all those three factors, there is a pie for compensation. So that meaning, like, you can't just give everything you would like. There's limited resources. And so when we think about compensation, we think about a pie. And if there's only so many slices, we want to make sure that our high performers are taken care of first, and then everybody else is taken care of later. So what does that mean? So we don't treat everybody equally. We don't think any company should. We think that is a way I think it's just bad, right? I think sometimes people will think, well, I want to be nice to everybody. No, you want to be the nicest to your best performers. And that is true because you want to make sure your best performers feel like they're treated fairly, that they're cared for, that they are appreciated, because you want them to stay. If you treat your best performers and your worst performers the same, the best performers don't feel special. And if they don't feel special, they're like, well, why am I busting my butt if I'm going to get the same compensation as Billy that shows up late every week? So it's very important to take care of your high performers, and we found that paying your high performers really well more than pays for itself. You generally I don't know if people have said this, but you generally underpay when it breaks down to it. You can pay your high performers a lot, but they're probably still underpaid, and your low performers are probably overpaid. That's usually what ends up happening in a weird way. That might not make sense, but essentially, you really want to take care of your high performers because they're more valuable than you probably even know, and then your low performers are less valuable than you actually think. So that's what we do. We like to take care of our high performers first, and then whatever pieces of the pie are left over, we leave for the rest of the team. So that's how we do it. Just a brief overview. Going forward, what we want to have our system be is more standardized. We're looking at, the funny thing is we're trying to look at other companies' compensation models, and it's very, very hard. big companies don't like to share the data because they want to keep that, I think, from their team members, because then they can negotiate between different companies. So it's really hard to find exactly how other people do it. But we want to have some type of rubric or some type of standard going forward so that everybody kind of understands how they're being measured and what their compensation looks like going forward. And one other consideration that we want to do going forward is have the biggest jumps in compensation be for the jumps in levels. What I mean by that, if you have a cashier or cook jump into a cashier lead or a manager, have that be the bigger jump. And we've done this in the past, but that be the clear jump, and that the increase for staying year after year isn't as big. The reason being, we want to incentivize growth for our team members and for our company. Because I've seen other companies where it's like a manager gets $1 more than a cashier. It's like, why the heck would they take on that headache, that responsibility for $1 more than a cashier? If it were me, I'd rather just stay a cashier, get $1 less, and work overtime than the headache of being a manager for $1 more. It doesn't make sense. So that's one thing we're looking at. So I think that's it. Hope's behind the camera. Any questions about how we do stuff?
No.
Make sense?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more boring of an episode. Hopefully you found some value in it. I think it's super cool, informational. Next time we do it, we should have a standardized process, and then when we do, we'll make sure we share it with you guys. Thanks for following. Please like or subscribe. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.